Hello and welcome to DCP SideQuest episode number 58. The 1st of August. I mean, it's not the 1st of August, but the first episode of August.
First episode of August. Yeah. I like it. I like it. That makes it significant. That means there will never be an episode like this again. Well,
You're
this
right.
year.
You're right.
Again, because SideQuest is coming to an end. Thanks for the journey.
Whoa.
It's the final episode. We didn't want to make it
Final
to
episode
69.
Of the first week of August.
Yep.
Actually, what it would, the bright episode to end on would be episode number 69. Be like,
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
you don't want to ruin a good thing, right?
Or you would break the trend and end it on 68 just because you can.
Just leave everybody unsatisfied.
How dare! I just got anxious just from that thought.
That's how I feel when he talked about Jar Jar.
Hey. Oh, actually, you know what?
Is there some Jar Jar news?
Jar Jar news, yeah.
Let's go over to Eric's for the weekly Jar Jar watch.
Unfortunately, there's no news. But you know, a couple of weeks ago, I uploaded some gameplay of Star Wars: The New Rogue Squadron game. The fight game.
I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah, so I had a chance to play a remote event. We sat there, we had a little presentation, and amidst that, they were like, "Has anyone got any questions?" And I said to them, "Is Jar Jar Binks going to be playable, or is he going to be an item in your cockpit?" And they unfortunately couldn't answer my question. But
Did they laugh?
Get my Jar Jar Binks question over to the developers. So
did they laugh?
Isn't that game based on the 4, 5, 6 in the trilogy or in the series? It's like based on the
possibly.
Okay,
Maybe,
you can't talk about it.
Yeah, it might be.
No. I mean, I actually don't. No, I actually don't know. I'm not
Well,
sure where it fits in.
Maybe
I mean,
it's
it's got
a
X-wings
cuddly
in it.
Jar Jar toy.
Yeah, true. Well, that's what I was hoping for, because inside the cockpit of that game, you can have loads of different like decorations. You can have like Darth Vader statue and stuff in like your cockpit and stuff. I was like, well, can we have a Jar Jar, like a nodding head Jar Jar? Imagine that.
Yeah.
There.
Because let's be
I'll put
honest, he'll never be a character in a game, so just give him a little bobblehead. Great.
Exactly. And then I'll just secretly log into Briar's account and put it into all of his ships, and he'll be like, "We put this here."
I quit this game forever.
Yeah.
I imagine
That game actually looks really good. I was a fan
Yeah.
of X-Wing and TIE Fighter back. I guess those games came out on DOS back in the day in the 90s, right? And then they made an X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which was an online game that you could actually dogfight other players online, which was amazing. But it didn't have story. It was just, it's just online. But the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter specifically had amazing stories to them. TIE Fighter even came with a book of like an actual physical book that you could read. And it was like the backstory of the character you're playing.
nice.
I got high hopes for that game. What's it called again?
Rogue Squadron.
I'm so excited.
Can't wait to play this game that I have no idea about.
Was the name of the games that came out like for in the N64 era too, right?
Wait,
They were developed by
Star Wars spacecraft.
just Star Wars Squadrons. That's it. Just Star
Squadrons.
Wars
Okay.
Now it's
That's
close.
it. Yeah.
Is there going to be like a story mode to that, or is it just going to be like an online thing?
Yes, there is a story mode. They're definitely taking like a slightly more kind of hardcore focus with that one, because they launch it with like there's a story mode and there's just like two main modes. One of them is like a deathmatch mode. The other one's like an objective driven sort of mode. And it's definitely like they spoke about different like angles for it, and they definitely said that the focus here is much more like the core, because like people kind of raise the question of like, oh, would you add like all these different modes and all these other things like that? It might appeal to more people like that, but I think they're definitely very much like, if you're a fan of like previous games or things like this is a game for you. Like there's so many systems when it comes to like flying. It's just, as someone that's not very good at flying games, it was quite an interesting experience. But even just down to things where like when you're in the cockpit and you can do like the power shift, you can be like, oh, I need to put like switch my boosters into my shield to protect myself, or switch my boosters into my like lasers and stuff. Like, there's some really cool systems in it, definitely, but it was quite daunting to get into initially. But it's also daunting, but also really easy to pick up. So it's definitely friendly, but
Cool.
But yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to play the campaign. I only got to play the multiplayer stuff, so I don't know what the campaign is like. But we should have to wait and see.
You play as Jar Jar.
I hope it's like a full campaign. I hope it's not like what they do with like Battlefront, where it's like they just kind of like they put a little campaign, they sprinkle a little campaign on top of the multiplayer experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Actually,
it's supposed to have a fully fledged story.
Yeah, the recent Battlefront had a pretty like fleshed out story.
Did it have a full campaign?
Yeah, I mean they did a thing about that with it. They had the actress come up like promoting it and all that. It was cool, actually. It was well done.
I might have to take a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't super long, but it was definitely like a campaign that you went through. Yeah.
Quick note before we go to news. If you're listening to the show and have the option of listening to it in half speed, you can hear all of us
Go
sound
right ahead.
wasted. And apparently Eric sounds normal.
Yeah. Apparently I speak just too fast normally, so apparently if you watch me on half speed, it's like you can understand me.
I don't get that. I see that comment. Like, Eric speaks too fast. I can't understand. I'm like, I don't hear that at all. Like,
Yeah.
you just speak normal speed to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I got that right at the beginning when I started YouTube, and like people would always be like, oh, this guy speaks too fast. And I mean, basically I slowed down my voice ever so slightly since, but I was just like, this is just normal to me. But
Maybe you just don't hear fast enough. You ever think of that?
this is true. This is true. Yeah, exactly. You slow. You're listening too slow, man.
You need to increase the speed of your hearing.
You need to overclock your ears, man.
Exactly.
The short clip that was sent to us was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Probably
That was an amazing clip.
It was like Southern drunk Briar all of a sudden. Don't know where it came from, but it was great.
It did sound like I was drunk. Like, very drunk.
Yeah, wasted. Good stuff. So there's been a few news bits over this past week. We are going to get into Ghost of Tsushima spoiler talk this episode, but we're not going to get into it until towards the end. So you're safe for now. But if you are worried about you haven't finished the game yet, that spoiler talk is going to happen later in the episode. So.
And we're not just going to dump a major spoiler straight away. We're not going to be like, yeah, so, Marvel Avengers.
Boom! Spoiler!
We'll give
you a fair warning. Let's talk. Let's see, there was Halo. There was also Marvel Avengers. Let's talk Halo real quick. So they officially announced that the multiplayer is going to be free to play, which is big. That's definitely big.
That's huge, yeah.
They also announced that they are targeting 120 FPS on the Xbox 4.
Yeah. I'm so happy you said that. I'm happy. That sentence made me happy on so many levels. First of all, you said 120 FPS.
Yes, on
which
a console.
Is insane.
For
like,
multiplayer.
Of course, you'll have to have a monitor or TV that supports it. There's not a ton of TVs that support that right now, but it's definitely a thing that's going to increase in the future. I know Sony just actually announced 2 TVs that are like PlayStation branded that will support 120 FPS, which is kind of cool. But you also said Xbox 4, which brought great happiness.
Yeah, because it is. It's the Xbox 4, right? Yeah. You have to equip your Xbox Phil Spencer decoder ring, and then you look through it, and you're like, oh, it's Xbox 4. That's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, X has 4 prongs on it, right? So,
Bingo.
That's right.
True.
Yeah,
it does that through HDMI, too. The newest HDMI spec that the PlayStation 4... PlayStation 5 and the Xbox 4 both support like the newer HDMI spec that does support 120 FPS 4K, which is huge.
Yeah, that is.
You'll have to have a good HDMI cable to do it. There's newer specs on HDMI cables. There's an 8K spec that's 48 gigabits per second, but I think for 4K 120 FPS you could do 18 gigabytes per second. I'd have to look that up, but look into your HDMI cables.
Yeah, they're rated in like that's the spec of like 2.1, 2.2.
That's incorrect. That's what the ports and the devices are rated at, but the cables are distinctly different. They rate the cables by the transfer speed that they support.
Oh, so I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You might get something that says, HDMI 2.0 compatible, but the cable itself needs to be rated for a transfer speed that is supported for what you're doing.
It's a lot like LAN cables. Like you can get the wrong LAN cable that doesn't give you 10 gigabit or like 1 gigabit, 10 gigabit. Like, so that type of thing as well. You have to have the right copper braiding and whatever the crap for those cables.
Yeah. It's mostly about the quality of the cable itself. It used to be, it's commonly been the case that, with HDMI, you buy the cheapest cable you could find because, if it gets the signal through, it's going to work fine. But increasingly with the higher bit rates that newer technologies require, like HDMI 2.0 and like 4K 120 FPS, like it's going to actually matter what HDMI cable you get. Theoretically, the one that comes with the console is going to be fine because they'll spec it out for that. But I mean, it hasn't been that long. The PlayStation 3 shipped with composite cables, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Exciting times. It's pretty crazy to just hear console and 120 FPS.
Yeah.
It's just that
4K 120 FPS.
crazy.
Did they actually say 4K?
No, I mean, there's no way these consoles are going to be able to natively output 4K at 120 FPS. They're just not that powerful. But what they can do is they can render the game at a lower resolution and then scale it up to 4K.
So not 4K,
which still looks good. Yeah, yeah. It's like how everything on the Xbox 360 is at 1080p, but it actually like rendered everything at like 800p or 600p or something like that.
It's huge for the multiplayer side. Also because of free to play, because you could definitely worry about what's going to happen to the population once the hype goes away, and that's normal for all these games at this point. And Halo used to be like the banner flagship of multiplayer experiences, and then that's gone away for the most part. You know, I mean, there's a core base that's excited and has been playing, but the populations have not been what they were in the past. And I think free to play will definitely help it, especially with the battle royale thing going on. Most of those that are good are free to play, so they have to compete with that market.
It also explains some of the graphical fidelity that we saw in the trailer at the Xbox event. Like if they are targeting high frame rates, then the graphical fidelity is going to be lower. But if it looks smooth at 120 FPS, I'll take lower graphical fidelity for a smooth gameplay experience. Like, that's
absolutely,
definitely sick.
Yeah,
I got to start shopping for a new TV though.
Wouldn't you just play in your office with your high frame rate monitor?
I mean, my high frame rate monitor doesn't support 4K though.
Yeah, but you don't know if they're going to do 4K 120.
Look, I don't want to have like 4 different monitors. Like depending on what game I'm going to play, I'm going to plug the PlayStation into.
So you're just going to have 4 different consoles, obviously. Much better.
So, I mean, I'd like to have a 4K monitor in my office that does high frame rates. Right now, those are like starting price, I think $900, and they easily get you up to $2,000
for the 144.
Bargain.
Yeah,
for 120, I believe.
So they're just doing 120. Yeah, for 4K 120.
They probably do 144 too. And then there's issues that you lose out on the color space too, like because the current display port doesn't support the full native color space at that high frame rate at 4K. So it's like there's only so many bits they could push through these cables, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cables are so complicated.
They are. They got real complicated recently. Like they're really pushing this technology to the limit. I'm wondering at what point where they just say, okay, we need a new cable. Like HDMI isn't doing it anymore.
I don't know.
And that would
Series X.
That would be actually be. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me when I say this, but that'd actually be nice because it would eliminate some of the confusion. Like, you know, you plug in 2 devices with a HDMI cable, or you plug a device into your TV with an HDMI cable, and it doesn't work like you expect it to, and you don't understand the problem because you don't know that there's like newer versions of HDMI cables that you need to use to support it because it all looks the same. Yeah. You know? So if they just made something new,
they should make the best one gold plated.
I think that they should make it kind of like USB-C where you can plug it upside down.
Yeah.
Because I'm fucking sick of that bullshit.
Well, it seems like a lot of companies are adopting like the USB-C for everything from video to regular data transfer and all that. And I don't know the limit. I don't know the limit of USB-C. I don't know if it can actually support like say 8K at 60 FPS or something, or you know.
That's confusing too, though, because USB-C and Thunderbolt both use the same connector, but they have different specs and they support different data rates. So
I give up.
It is confusing. It's not like it's simple.
I'm just gonna get a piece of string and just tie 2 things together and just
like a
hope
couple of cans of string.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Halo. Free to play, 120 FPS.
Yeah,
you don't
you
even have to have the Game Pass. You'll be able to play the multiplayer like when it releases.
That I'm so excited to see, just because it's kind of like, as you sort of said, like, I mean, in recent years, obviously there've been like more and more, there have been Halos, but the pickup hasn't been the same. It's like the kind of the core Halo community has obviously been there, but you think back to the days when like Halo was like one of the, not necessarily one, like, but Halo was kind of like top of the esports scene, or there was like kind of a big like scene around it. And you kind of haven't necessarily, and it still exists, but you don't necessarily sort of see it in the same light. The fact that it's going free to play, I mean, you look at what that did for like Call of Duty Warzone. You look at obviously other things like Apex, stuff like that. Like it just being free to play, and you don't need like Game Pass. You can literally just like, I'm going to download it on my Xbox. Like I bought a brand new console. We already spoke about like the value of being like, oh, I'll buy an Xbox and I'll have Game Pass with all the launch games. But even if you don't buy Game Pass, you could literally just download Halo and play multiplayer with your friends all the time. Like that is going to take, like, the casual scene is going to come back. There'll be like, even, and that's it'll be even kind of forgiving, because I know that like in recent years people have been like, oh, I don't necessarily like all the new additions, I don't like Sprint, I don't like these gadgets, but like it's free. Like even if you've got gripes, it's free. You can just play. Even if you're like, I hate the grapple, man, it's still free. Like people are going to overlook a lot of things just because they literally won't have to pay a penny. I hope they don't, Microsoft's normally sensible with this. I hope they don't like riddle it with microtransactions and stuff, but I feel like they have a sensible practice for this. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens with like, if that brings the Halo scene back, because that would be
right. Yeah, I could see them doing something where if you own the campaign and you beat the campaign, you get some sort of cosmetic that you can attach to represent that. And so maybe they connect it that way, like, or as they add new story DLCs, because they said that they're going to keep on expanding the Halo Infinite universe. Maybe each one of those has some cosmetics associated with it, so they can represent that in the multiplayer. Yeah.
True. The thing is, if they really had to kind of, obviously, there's always, you normally, like, understandably, if you go free to play, you always need to kind of support that model. And like, on one side, Microsoft has got Game Pass, but like, even if they did it in a sensible way where they just like sold cosmetics, like I feel like if a company has to, I understand, I know some people are just like generally flat against microtransactions, but understanding the business model, you realize like you need to keep the lights on, right? And like, if they're just going to sell, you think about how crazy people go for like recon armor and like other things like that. Like, obviously, you want to have a lot of it earnable in game. Like, I'm not saying put all of it behind a paywall. But like, if they do get to the point where they can sell like some sets of like armor and stuff, like if that's going to keep the thing ticking over, it's minor, right? Like they'll probably go down the whole route where like a lot of these games do, where they'll have like weapon skins and maybe even like weapon trinkets that hang off your gun and just ways to like personalize your, maybe, who knows? Yeah. But I'm excited to see. It's going to be interesting, and it'll be interesting to sort of see if that sets the precedent for like I know other games have done it in the past, but like moving forward with a lot more games might just be thinking, well, if we drop multiplayer on Xbox and they don't need Game Pass, they're instantly going to be involved. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. So, Marvel.
Avengers. Oh, some spicy news today.
I saw that movie. It was all right.
Is that the one where the guy was always snapping? The snappities.
Snap. Yeah, see, because obviously, like last week there was the War Table stream. So obviously they announced that the beta is coming up, which obviously is a really exciting thing to get a chance to jump into. But they did drop the bombshell today, the kind of big anti-consumer move that Spider-Man, who, let's be honest, it's not like they chose a rubbish hero like, I don't know, Jubilee or like
Jubilee
or like Hawkeye. Like they chose Spider-Man.
Throwing some hate at the X-Men there.
Spider-Man is like,
he's not wrong.
I think, most people's favorite superhero, especially after the recent Spider-Man movies, the Spider-Man game. Like they've all been very good. So.
And he is exclusive to PlayStation.
Oof.
Yep.
Like, this is the thing. Like, I'm super looking forward to this game because, like, I know a lot of people like are not necessarily kind of from what they've seen so far, which understandably is not too much. Like, I know a lot of people are still very much on the fence, and hopefully the beta might lighten that up. But I'm still looking forward to it. But that is, like, I can play on any platform, sure, but like we just know, like we know right from like the Destiny days, like anytime you do those console exclusives, it's just like a big old anti-consumer move. Nobody likes it, right? And it's just like why? I mean, okay, the answer to why is because obviously Marvel and Sony have a deal for Spider-Man, so obviously there's a reason for that, and they're gonna push that. But come on, man, like a lot of people are just gonna get angry about it. Like people that were potentially on the fence, and now even if it's on their platform, they're still gonna be annoyed about it. So yeah, who knows?
This is, for me, there's no reason for me not to play the game on PlayStation then at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Spider-Man.
Effective. I just don't know if I'm going to play the game at all.
Yeah, that's my That's my thing. Try the beta. I'll hop in the beta.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your predictions on this? How the game's going to turn out?
It's hard to say because it's one of those ones where it's one of the really interesting things like about quite a few games that are like emerging in this space now is that a lot of games that fall within this kind of loot space. Godfall is a very similar thing where because of the precedent of games you had up and like prior to this, games like Destiny and Division and like Anthem and things like that, people always assume when they see a new game like this announced, they're like, it's a loot game, it's a game as a service, I should be able to play this game forever. But I think a lot of people are forgetting there's also a second category of these games, more like your Borderlands, I guess the way they're described, like Outriders coming out and Godfall, and by what I can see, like Marvel as well, where they offer you the loot experience in a kind of a space where you can play for, X amount of hours. Maybe you get more than you would out of a story game, but they are not designed to be a game as a service in that you don't like play it week in, week out, log in for your weekly resets, stuff like that. And I think a lot of people often forget that because I was kind of doing a video the other day, like talking about the new Godfall stuff and speaking to the developer, and one of them said that, it is not a game as a service. There will still be stuff to do end game. There'll be stuff to play, but it is not a service-based game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the kind of distinctions that a lot of people forget. And they go in, they see these games, they set the bar like, oh, cool, this is going to be like my Marvel version of Destiny that I can play for a bajillion hours. When in reality, it might just be, we don't know because they haven't really told us enough just yet. But in reality, it might be one of those things where instead you play it for like 60 hours. They've already said that their plan to support it is to continually add like story chapters. They'll add characters. All of that will be free. So they obviously intend to expand it, I guess, more in a system that's more akin to like Monster Hunter, right? Where it's like every few months they'll be like, here's some new content, jump in and enjoy it. So I think it's one of those things where like if you set your expectations right and you go into it knowing what it actually is, then people will be like, cool, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into it and you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be Destiny, it's not Destiny, what the hell, man? So it's hard to say.
This is all making it sound much more attractive to me, frankly, because I don't have time in my life for multiple like live service forever games.
Mm-hmm.
It's too many hours to keep up with them.
Yeah. We heard recently from some developers at Respawn who obviously make Apex, that is a game as a service. It's always updating. And they said that they are working so hard, so much crunch, because keeping up with games as a service is incredibly difficult.
Nice.
And no one should do it. Studios should stay away. It's a tough time.
But it's right. It's right. It's like you were sort of saying, bro. It's like, there came a time when that was like an emerging genre, a brand new genre, and everyone was like, oh, yo, we love this. Everyone wants to be doing this. But it's right. Like, I love those kind of games, and I love it harkens back to like the MMO days. But like the reality of the situations is, if you have any more than one of those on the go, it's like a full-time job to try and stay up to date. So I love my loot. So I do actually quite like the idea of things like, Monster Hunter, Borderlands, what they've said about Outriders, or what they said about these things where like you get your fix in a kind of a thing where you can stop, you can finish it, and you can kind of quote unquote complete it. Sure, if you want to keep looping to find like some slightly better gear, you can. But yeah, I think a lot of developers are probably sort of seeing that because it's more attainable, right? It doesn't mean you have to commit to your game for like the next 10 years. So
also, it seems to be ultra high risk to develop one of these games. So we've seen that in the past, right? It's like some of them have gone really well, like Warframe and Destiny. Some of them have gone really poorly, like Anthem.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there like a lot of room in between? It's a super expensive thing to make because you have to make so much content and so much gear, and then you have to support it, and you have to keep the servers live, and you have to keep patching it and updating it based on player feedback, and it's just a really expensive way to go. And is the juice going to be worth the squeeze on a lot of these, or is it going to become like a MMO situation where there's one of these that's really popular, and it's just really hard to compete because it's hard to pull players away from that one that they've invested all those hours into.
True.
I don't know.
It's risky.
Yeah.
And even the ones that are quote unquote successful start out really rocky. Warframe was very rocky. People were like, I don't know about this.
Yeah,
and it took them
very rocky.
It took them a good 2-3 years, maybe longer, to really like start pointing it in the right direction where people enjoyed it. Destiny obviously had the same type of thing where a lot of mixed reactions around the initial launch. And if it wasn't for that raid for Vault of Glass, then I think a lot of people would have dropped Destiny hard and not come back, So yeah, it's super risky.
I think it's Yeah, I think it's also it's one of those weird like kind of double-edged sword genres as well, because like I see the value in it. I see why people love that genre. I love that genre, but it's also done a really weird, interesting kind of thing to like the gaming landscape, because now you have the unrealistic expectation. Think before we had those games, right? Other than playing something like World of Warcraft, everyone assumes I buy my game, I get 40 to 60 hours out of it. Maybe you're playing an RPG, you get 100 hours, and you're like, that's basically it. Now people are like, only 100 hours? What the hell? It's like people expect them to be like, I saw debates before where we kind of sort of like chatting about like I think it came with like with the Outrider stuff, and they went on record to sort of say, the core campaign you can do in about 40 hours, and there's some stuff to do around that. And people are like, only 40 hours for $60. It's like, I mean, if you divide $60 into 40 hours, it's like, what?
That's cheap.
My math is not great, but it's pretty cheap, right?
No,
Video games are the cheapest form of entertainment, if you think about it. Per hour.
Yeah. Exactly right. That's the thing. But people now, because of these new games that can give you endless hours, are now genuinely in positions where they're like, only 60 hours? That's not a bargain. It's like,
it's got to be kids that are saying that, right? Because the only time in my life that I can remember having like a conversation with myself about like, should I buy a game based on how long it is when I was a child and I just had endless hours to fill, like during summer vacations or something.
Yeah. Or your budget was so small that you're like, I can only pick one of these, so I need to pick the game that will last the longest.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Now I kind of get a little excited when I hear that a game, it's like, oh, it's 30 hours. I'm like, oh, so I can have this really awesome experience for 30 hours.
I can stream this in a week and it'll be done? Okay.
I remember having a conversation with Gary Diaz where he only wanted to play indie games that were like, 3 or 4 hours because, it just fits into your lifestyle better and you can have a complete narrative experience in like the pace of a couple of movies, and they're much cheaper generally,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go through a lot more of them.
It's like the bite-sized content type of format that society is more and more pushing towards, with like, I mean, Netflix is, giving one-offs and all that. I feel like indie games are feeling that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking
of value in games, there's a lot of rumors that the next generation of discs and like games are going to be $70.
Yeah, I heard about that rumor.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true. I mean, that's just kind of been a rumor. That's all it is. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we've been paying $60 for games for 2 generations now.
Yeah.
And frankly, before that, like, I think it was Xbox One and PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games were hovering around $50 and $40 more. But in the 16-bit era, it was not rare to spend $70 or $80 on a game just because, they literally had to pay for the hardware inside the cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So games are cheap.
They really are for what you get out of them, and you're interacting with it much more than you would a movie or a TV show. You are living that experience that you're playing. So
yeah,
I can't complain.
Yeah, the value per hour of entertainment is extremely high when it comes to games.
Yeah, it's great. It's insane, especially when we're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima. I'm not sure how many hours I put into that, but it had to be 30 plus.
I think I was at like 60.
I think I got 50. Yeah.
I feel like I was around 40.
I wish there was a way to tell on that.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird oversight to not show your playtime on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So we got through Halo. We talked about Avengers. Oh, for me personally, I think I'm still going to play on PC. Like I'd love to play as Spidey, but it's not going to make me 30 FPS.
No. I just need to play as Thor, so I'm all right. Like I'm fine. I just need to be the big old hammer dude, so it doesn't affect me.
Definitely, you're thinking about getting the next generation of graphics card for your PC, right?
Oh no, that's my plan. I'm not thinking about it.
So, but you're still playing at 1080p. Are you going to upgrade your monitor when you do that?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to go with?
1440.
Yeah.
I'm going to do 1440 at 140 or 120 hertz. And I'm hoping that the RTX 3080 is going to be, solid and be able to pump out those frame rates in this.
2080 can do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and maintain 120. I feel like it still has hiccups here and there.
Yeah, with certain games like Assassin's Creed. What was it called? Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think that was more based around the CPU than the GPU. Yeah, with that one.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that the 3080 is a real technological leap. People are saying that it's going to be, the rumor is that it's going to be like a significant leap, like 30-40% more power overall than the
That's
20.
a big leap.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need another computer to power the graphics.
Exactly. The 980 Ti to the 1080 Ti was a very big leap. So if it is something of that nature, then I'm going to be very happy. But if it isn't, I don't know. I might step it down and just go with like a 3070 or something like that, because 1080 Ti right now is fantastic for 1080p. There isn't really much that it chokes at, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. There's nothing it chokes at 1080p. So I'm only missing the ray tracing.
Yeah.
You know?
Which isn't a big thing right now.
Yeah. I feel like that still needs to be adopted. So
yeah. I don't know what the price of the 3080 Ti is going to be, but I do know it's going to be fucking expensive.
It's going to be more than a console, that's for sure.
Yeah, it might be more than both of them. It definitely is going to be more than both of them. I almost have no doubt that it's going to be more than both of them.
Combined, you think?
Yeah.
I think so, especially at launch. If you want to get one at launch,
1200 or something,
maybe more. I mean, I think that it was 1200 for the like NVIDIA edition of the 2080 Ti at launch, and then to get into like the partner cards, which have like better cooling and all that, you know, it's getting to 1400.
Yeah, wasn't there at the time? Wasn't there manufacturing issues and global supply going on? Which obviously is still
that shouldn't be an issue this year.
Still the case this year, but like, yeah. I'm wishing it's not going to be super expensive, but it's probably going to be crazy expensive.
I think it's going to be crazy expensive because they're still in the same position. They have no competition, right? So they can just charge whatever they want.
True. I also don't want the reference card. I want the Strix one, the Asus Strix. I prefer those because they're quiet.
Yeah. You know what's funny about the last generation was that NVIDIA actually binned the chips, and the reference ones had the best chips on them, even though they were at not as good cooling.
Interesting. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll do that again.
Yeah. Hey,
it seems like they might want to just force the partner card industry to go away.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, and just be a direct sales thing.
That'd be a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it would be.
So, speaking of things that are not related to graphics card whatsoever, that Analogue Pocket, though.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness! It sold out in what, 10 minutes?
Sold out faster than I could get one.
Oh, Briar didn't get the pre-order.
Briar needed one. Briar requires one.
Briar's a sad rabbit.
He's Mr. Analog. He's the analog rabbit.
No. I even because I knew it was been an important day. I even dropped it in. I know you don't have notifications on. I even dropped it in the SideQuest chat. I was like, it's going live in an hour. I was no.
What happened, Briar?
I just didn't get there in time. Like I had an alarm set. I was ready to go. I had an alarm set for the pre-announcement yesterday. I just didn't get there in time. Those pre-orders went out of stock almost immediately. Like it was very quick.
Damn.
I mean, I was literally like on the website the second it ticked over because I normally expect those websites like crash and stuff, but like the second it ticked over to like 8 a.m. your time or like 4 p.m. my time, it just said the button was like add to cart. So I was like boom, and then like checkout held for a little bit, but then I was like. Whew. So I did manage to get my one. I pre-ordered the black one with a stand, but they would. Dang.
Yeah, I assume that at some point they may do an additional pre-order. They've done that in the past. But also the thing's not coming out till May, so I got a long time to not care. But when May comes around in 2021, if it's not immediately available, I'm going to be bummed for sure because that thing. I mean, the specs on that thing are amazing. Like the screen resolution for a small screen like that is really high. It's got a variable refresh rate, so it's going to look good with a multiple of different consoles. Like it's got cartridge adapters, so you can collect the old cartridges. Or, they're saying no ROM support right now, which is weird. But like most people just assume that that's like, they don't want to get in trouble. So the ROM support will come later through side loading software to it. There's always unofficial software for analog products that you can download that adds ROM support. So most people assume that. But what I'm really excited about that I'm hoping happens for it is that it gets like NES and Super Nintendo support because it's got 2 different FPGAs in it and they're opening it up to developers. But there is some there's some pushback on the developer side about it. Like the people who develop cores for the Mister, which is very similar, a very similar technology, is they're kind of like, well, why would we do that for this thing that like, you make? We're not going to get any like compensation for working to make your product better. Like, so why would we do that? We're already working on the Mister.
The Misters and the Pockets will have an epic duel.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I definitely want one. I was bummed I didn't get one though. I'm glad you got one, so we can at least check it out. I'll have to stick with my.
They definitely said on Twitter though. They did say they were looking into kind of like a second like wave and whatnot. So hopefully that. I mean, especially considering it is so far out, I feel like it's one of those ones where they can use the initial pre-orders to gauge how much they need to manufacture, and then maybe work out like, oh, okay, we can sneak in like another wave. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's
I'll
kind of
definitely
what I was
pre-order
thinking.
it if I have the opportunity, because I just missed it. Like it just went so fast, and I just wasn't.
Yeah,
I was outside.
I knew it. I was like, what actually happened? Like there it was, Molotov cocktail in hand, and then the pre-order went off.
The alarm went off. Like, oh shit, I got to pre-order my Analog. But what do I do with this Molotov?
Oh dear.
I was bummed though. I'm hoping that it's May too. It's like it's so far away.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's very far away. So
I am still kind of focused on the PlayStation 5, and also they have 500 of my dollars still. Analog, actually, I ordered the Analog NT Noir, which is their NES kind of thing.
Yeah,
that was $500, and I ordered that this May. No, I ordered that in March, and that's not coming out till November. So they're just like chilling with my $500 anyway. So I was about to give them like another 400.
Are we sure it's not all a scam?
yeah, what if they suddenly go out of business?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, whoops! COVID hit us real hard. Sorry, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Well, I think
this is a record-setting year for me spending money on video game shit. That's for sure.
I think it's that way for a lot of people, actually. Yeah. Speaking of video games and things that are awesome, we need to talk spoilers for Ghost.
We do, because my section's going to be at least an hour.
Oh boy! All right, let's get into it.
All right. So anybody wondering if you haven't
full-on spoiler talk about
Mm.
Ghost of Tsushima, no holds barred. We're gonna be
Yes.
talking about story, plot points, the ending. So it's going. If
you haven't finished it,
play the
now's your
game,
time
or
to
you're still
leave.
playing it. Yeah, now's the time to end the show. You can come back after you play the game, but we're going full on spoilers here.
Full on.
Yep.
I guess we could just go through the acts and how we felt about the acts.
Wasn't it crazy when Metroid showed up at the end of
that was the best part. And it was a girl. Metroid's a girl.
Metroid's
I couldn't believe that when Jin Sakai took his mask off, he was Darth Vader.
crazy, right?
Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
I mean, the crossovers in this game are nuts. Where to begin?
What did you guys think of like the whole thing? Okay, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, before we did the story stuff, the thing that I was alluding to before, when I said there comes a time in the game where you unlock a thing, and that thing is awesome. Can we just appreciate that thing?
What thing are you talking about?
Ghost
when
dance?
you unlock Ghost Dance.
Oh my
when you
god!
unlock
Oh, yeah.
for the first time, and you're just like you're literally there. You spin around, impale the guy, slice his head off, and it's like
screen
now you can
turns
activate
red.
this. The screen goes red, and you're like, now you can kill 3 people like a badass. And it's
The
like,
bummer of that is I unlocked that and I probably had like 1 or 2 hours worth of playtime left. So I only got to use it at the very end of the game.
What?
wait, what? No, you're
Yeah.
right, too.
You get that at the end of Act 2, yeah.
So how long is Act 3?
Dude,
Probably, there's a good no, unless you just did main quests, then you probably weren't too far from the end. If
So,
you just
all right,
if
so
you
it
go
was-
and land it.
I wanted to ask you guys if you had a similar experience with me, because I wasn't sure if I had just like I had done it wrong, but I did not finish the Tales until after I finished actually the main quest. And I was doing the Tales the whole time. Like as they became available, I was doing them, and then at like certain points they would stop. Like you you couldn't progress a tale anymore until you got to Act 2.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be a stopping point for me until I beat Khan as well. Like I couldn't finish the tales until I finished the story.
I finished them all before Khan.
You finished them all before you finished the story?
Yeah.
I don't know. They just weren't on my map. I couldn't find them. It wasn't. It wasn't until later that I found that you could go into the menu and select a person, and then it would show you where that was.
Yeah, because I think for me, like early on, a lot of the tales were just dumped on your map. Towards the end, I think it's like if you had to kind of go a little bit into the fog of war to kind of uncover like an area, and then they would be like, oh, there's a tale here.
Oh, so they might have been in a fog of war area, and I couldn't see them.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
That could have been it. Yeah. But back to the ghost stance, though. I mean, I completely agree. Every stepping in this game of getting new kit for your badass samurai-ness was amazing. But when they showed that ghost stance, I was like, oh my God.
I think I teared up out of hype. That whole mission of just like, and you get it, and right after you get it and you finish cutting heads off and stuff, you're just like charging forward into the enemy, and it just feels like such an epic sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amplified by the fact that like, because that has a high like fear rating, you'll cut someone's head off, kill the 3 people, and then someone's on the floor crawling away like, not me.
Yes.
I was like, never have I felt like such a badass in game. Like I actually felt like people were physically scared of me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is awesome.
You can increase how often that happens too, like up to like I think the max was like 40% or something. So like if you killed one dude, there's a 40% chance that somebody else was just gonna run away. Like that's helpful against like big groups of bad guys.
Can we talk about how damn fast they are? Jesus, I've never seen an NPC run so fast in my life.
Arrows are faster. I was shooting motherfuckers in the back. I'll tell you that much.
Me too.
Yeah,
you're not getting away.
Tried to run away. I'm like, let me get the longbow out. I'm like, you are not. I was like, I'll do like
no
a longest shot.
No tales will be told of this.
Well, one thing I really appreciated as the game progressed was the lore or the folklore of your character becoming more and more pronounced and more supernatural. Like you had witnessed everything that you had done. And there's a few things that are borderline supernatural in the game, like that vision and all that. But for the most part, it's like it's rooted in semi-reality. And by the end of it, everybody's like, the ghost is 10 feet tall, demon eyes. It's unbelievable what's happening. Like you've become actual folklore in the game, which
that ties into some of the other stories. Like when you go to get like a certain armor or something, you go and talk to like a musician who's singing the tale of like another famous samurai who wore this armor, and you can totally imagine that your tale will be told the same way.
Yeah.
Briar, did you not get the flame sword?
I got the flame sword.
Okay,
yeah. Again, after I'd finished the story.
Damn, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Like it was weird because all this stuff happened for me after I don't know if it was because I was using I got real sick of just riding between places on my horse.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's no like auto ride like there are in a bunch of these games where you can just like your horse will just follow a road and you can fuck off and like take a drink or do whatever you're gonna do. Like and watch this happen, you have to actually manually ride your horse. So anytime I could use a fast travel point, I was, and I suspect that's why like things got out of sequence for me a little bit.
No, I fast traveled every single time, and I didn't get out of sequence.
Yeah, so I got the flame sword quest was awesome.
Yeah,
like you got to climb this mountain, and it turns into like a survival game where it's really cold, and you have to climb this mountain and get between the 2 campfires really fast, otherwise you freeze to death. And there's like story stuff happening on the way up too. Yeah. It's a cool quest.
Yeah, it was really cool. I didn't even think about it until chat was like, use your camera to scope out the next campfire. And I was like,
oh yeah, that would have been smart.
Yeah.
When you climb the mountain, how many times did you get killed by the bear?
I did not get killed by the bear.
I jumped over the bear.
I got surprised by the bear.
I can't remember if I got killed by the bear or
Eric
not.
was like, oh yeah, me too. No death.
Well, see, I went up, right? And the bear like grabbed me and threw me off the mountain. So there was like, I'm going to go up a second time. I was like, he's not going to get me this time because I know he's there. And he grabbed me and threw me off the mountain. I was like, All right,
That's hilarious.
I was like,
that is amazing.
I'll throw a smoke bomb, throw kunai at this guy. I'm like, you're not getting me this time, man. Yeah.
I don't know. I must have got lucky because I went like around the bear and then over the bear. So I was like looking at the bear. I'm like, it's weird that there's a bear hair. Like it doesn't even. You don't even interact with him at all.
Oh no.
I might have died. I can't remember actually. It was very surprising to get confronted by the bear though.
Yeah, I was just like, there's a bear in the mountain.
Bear. It's freezing in the bear. Oh my god.
Of course there is. Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about the tails? So there's a weird setup here. There's like
I would
a main
love
quest.
to talk about the tails.
There's the tails, which are almost they're bigger quests than just like a side quest, and a side quest where it's usually like, go talk to somebody and kill a guy or kill a couple of guys and then come get a reward.
Yeah, Watts.
The tails though were pretty in depth.
Yeah. So first of all, I loved all of them. But there were two in particular that really stuck with me and kind of had a large emotional impact, especially setting up for the end of Act 2. So the way that I did it and I'll talk about 2 and you guys could talk about others, but I played out Yuna's tale. So with Yuna, we learned that her and Taka, her brother, were kidnapped and sold into child slavery.
Yeah.
Fun times. And we also find
were they kidnapped? I had got the impression that Yuna had actually gone there willingly and brought Taka into it, and she felt a lot of guilt because she actually brought Taka there because she thought it was a good place to be.
There was something with her going there. Yeah.
And she was trying to protect Taka.
Oh, I think wasn't it that she was like she used to play in that area or something? Like because the Ronin didn't used to be that bad, and then the Ronin turned into like awful, terrible humans.
Could be. Yeah. She had a lot of remorse over it. She was trying to protect them because she was like the older one and they were still kids.
Yeah.
So she thought like at least this would be a good situation, and obviously wasn't.
Yeah, so playing their story is heartbreaking, and you come across this person called the Black Wolf through this story, and in English he says that Taka was his favorite, and I don't know what the voice acting was like when he said that, but in Japanese he said that he was very cute, which made it even more creepy. Yeah. That he was like, oh yeah, I remember Taka. He was very cute, which made it very obvious what was happening to Taka.
Yeah.
And Yuna explains that, he doesn't remember any of it, but that was a really emotionally impactful tale for me because you got a better idea as to why Yuna is so protective over him. And, why he probably hasn't been able to stand up for people or protect his family, because Yuna's always like, no. No way. We're not letting anything like this happen again. So that tale was great. And I loved killing the slavers and chopping off their head.
That was dope.
Yeah.
That was really cool. There wasn't a lot of stealth sequence that I enjoyed, but that one I did because you were going in there chopping off their heads.
Yeah.
Well, and like the whole pretense was nobody can know, how this happened. It's got to be like, the ghost.
Yeah, like creepy. And you end up putting it on a stick outside of the camp so that people see it and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was out of sequence for me too because Taka was already dead when I did that.
Oh, see,
Oh, no.
see, this is I was saying 100% like doing the tales in the order and then doing the main story for sure enhanced the main story for me by a ton. And that was one of them that during that period, I ended up feeling very connected to Taka, because he's making our equipment. I now know about his history and what he's been through and why Yuna protects him. So it was a huge emotional attachment to Taka after that. And I think maybe if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't have felt.
I might have felt more connected to Taka because I did not feel a huge emotional bond to Taka when he died. I was kind of like that. I felt like it fell flat a little bit, but if I had known more about the backstory before he died, but again, it just wasn't there. It wasn't on the map for me. I just thought you had to wait,
It was hugely impactful.
Yeah, it was very impactful for me. Yeah.
And I did Yuna's story, and then I went right into Yuriko's story, which is the older lady who has a very short tale, but they did such a good job writing it because not only did you feel connected to her and you're like, oh, I love her, but she also bestowed a lot of wisdom upon you because this was the time where we learned that Jin's dad actually complained about Jin's uncle being super rigid and stubborn and stuck in the like samurai honor ways. So we kind of learned through her that she his family, the Sakai clan, might have actually thought that what he was doing was, not a bad thing, because he's saving a lot of lives. He's protecting his country. And up until then, we were just like, oh, everyone hates us.
Yeah.
But coming away from that, it made me feel much more connected to the Sakai clan and made me want to wear the armor, because I'm like, oh, my dad probably would have done the same thing. And of course, at the end, she ends up dying.
That was the highlight emotionally for me of the whole story. Like the entire game was her saga, because you spend so much time with her, and she is so likable. You know, she is just, she's not a pushover. Like, she definitely criticizes you multiple times, especially with the whole poison thing.
Yeah.
But you really, I mainlined her quest like one after another, because after Act 2, like I saw that you could get the clan armor from that story. Mm-hmm. So I just I crossed the entire island to get to her in one straight shot on a horse, and then I did all her stories like right there. Yeah. And it was really impactful. That was the best story in the game, I thought. Better than the main quest story.
It was really great. You learn that she has Alzheimer's of some kind, right? And she's talking to you like it's your dad. And then she passes away. And that was very, 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 very sad.
Yeah.
That we told as well, because obviously, like, I think it was like in the second mission, like Jin would obviously correct her, like he's like, no, I'm Jin, but then like towards the end, he's like, yes, I'm my father, and it's just like kind of letting her just be happy with it. It was
he's realizing what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that tale was rough.
I mean, all the tales were definitely they all had some darkness in there and some stuff that was
Masako, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, right. Like they all just
dear God.
They peeled back large pieces of humanity and put it under like a magnifier, It was really,
some of them I didn't like though. Some of them I felt like it was a slog to get through. Like Sensei Ishikawa. Yeah, like I liked the Tome stuff, or Tomeu, or whatever her name was.
Tomoe.
Oh, Tomoe.
Tomoe. Yeah, but I found Sensei to be a completely unlikable character from the get-go. And I didn't I see his icon on the map. I'm like, oh, another one of these. Like
that was the point.
You had mentioned last week at some point that you hope to see, Tomoe again in maybe a sequel or a side story. I'm with you. Like, that character was really interesting, but you only got to see her for like 2 missions out of that whole thing. And Sensei was, just so boring. Like, I really didn't want anything to do with those side quests.
Interesting. I didn't think he was boring, but I felt the animosity from him and what he had created, what his legacy had ended up being.
Yeah.
Especially with how he was teaching and all that. Like, I felt like it was just another one of those like peeling back parts of humanity and being like, this is what happens when you've lived in this type of animosity for a large portion of your life.
And her quest as well, his tale, it was another great way that they showed the gray area of war, right?
Yeah.
It's where you ended up being like, oh, well, she's not that bad. Maybe we can forgive her. Maybe we can let her go.
She's pretty bad, though. She's pretty
bad. Yeah, she's very, very bad. But I think they did a fantastic job with the writing of showing that gray area of us not just being like, I hate X person, and that's it. That's the only layer to it. And showing the struggles of war. And they also did a really good job of telling very interesting stories without just being overtly telling you about it. Like Masako, for example, her tale, we found that she was bisexual, because she had a husband, and then she had a woman as a lover as well.
Yeah.
And that was, man, every time I was with Masako and she went up to one of those people, I was like, oh no, here she goes again. They're dead.
She gonna cut him.
She's gonna cut a bitch. She's very understandably, she lost like her whole family.
Yeah.
Because of her sister. Dear God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The conclusion of this one was good. I felt like that whole side quest could have been like 2 side quests shorter. Like there were a couple in the middle where I was like, let's move this along. Like, we all see what's coming here.
Man, I really didn't feel that. I felt like the pacing was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed the experiences that they were laying out and like peeling back each one of these layers as to why this story was being that way. I also did them in order though, Briar. So maybe that affected.
I did them in order. I just did the main quest
with the main
out
quest,
of order. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have this feeling about the entire game. Really, is that like I really like this game, but I feel like I cannot wait for a sequel because I feel like there's so much potential. I feel like this game mirrors my feelings about the first Assassin's Creed. Oddly, is like I love that game because I saw all the potential in it, and it wasn't a perfect game, but it just showed what could be done. And I feel that way about this game too. Is like this game has so much like potential to it. I can't wait to see what they do with a sequel, which I hope they make. I know they made a ton of money on this. Like it sold really well. And I can't wait to see what they do like with a bigger budget and more time in development. And they don't have to like create an engine from scratch. Like I can't wait to see when they flesh it out, like when they can flesh out the world and they can have more characters around it. And like, like it, I can't wait.
Man, I felt like the world was fleshed out.
Yeah, maybe it's because I've spent so many times in recent years playing games that are a lot like this, like Assassin's Creed Origins and The Witcher 3, where like format wise, it's very set up the same, but the worlds have more in between, like when I'm riding a horse between like a place in The Witcher 3 and another place, like there's more stuff in between it, which makes the world feel more lived in. In this world, I don't want to complain about this game because I love it. I'm just saying, like, to me, like I would have loved to see, like, I can't wait for a sequel where they can flesh out the world a little more. And there's like, there's more variety between quests, and there's more variety of like things that you see in the world. Like one of the coolest things I saw in this game was I came across this village that was clearly a whaling village, and they had a whale on the shore, and they were like stripping the whale. Like they were mid, like taking, like I love stuff like that, like that kind of environmental storytelling. And there was some of that in this game. I can't wait to see like what they could do, like the next step,
So different villages for sure had some copy paste type of stuff going on there with like the buildings and all that. So I do understand like that angle of it. But man, I felt like there was so much to do in the game. Like when I finished it, I had a lot of other stuff on the map that I could have gone and done. Just another 10 hours at least of things that could be done with collecting things and just I guess the world for me was about how beautiful it was looking, not necessarily about how dense of like population things happening. It was more the experience of riding through the landscape that caught me. I go for what? Yeah.
I was gonna say, I wonder if I didn't feel much of that because I switched up the variety of what I was doing so much. Like I go do a regular side quest, and then I go do a tale, and then I do a main story mission, and then I go, liberate some camps because there are a lot of camps to liberate, and then I'd be like, oh, I want to go find, another hot spring or another bamboo strike. So I would really switch it up all the time. So even if I came into a mission where it was like, oh, I have to go follow the footprints again. It's like, well, I did that so long ago, and I've just done like 4 different things that were totally different since then. So maybe that kind of
I think that definitely plays a big role because the thing is, like, I love this game. I mean, obviously, I've said in my reviews, like one of my all-time favorite games like ever. So I definitely loved it, but I definitely saw what you meant to a degree, because there were times because I was very adamant about like I want to clear things as I was going, but I would be like, I'm going to do all the side bits. Now I'm going to do like side quests specifically. So there were quite a few times where it would be like I might do 6 or 7 quests back to back where it's like follow some footprints, track this guy down, kill this guy in this village, which looks very similar to the last one I saw. It's funny because I mentioned this before, where like there are elements in this game that are present that were also present in something like Red Dead. And in Red Dead, I was critical of them because I wasn't because the theme is not something that I mean, Cowboys is cool, but it's not really a theme that I'm particularly that hyped for. So for me, when I'm playing something like Red Dead, I don't have that thematic investment. I'm just like, it's just an open world game. Technically, it's brilliant, but I was like, this is kind of boring. Whereas in Tsushima, I love the world because obviously I love that theme. I love thinking about, kind of Japanese theme and whatnot. So I think I was able to overlook some of those things that rightfully are still repetitive. The typical kind of tropes in like open world things. All these games like open worlds, there's always going to be X number of mission flows that will be repeated in different settings because they can't create like a bajillion individually different quests because it's just not viable. So there were definitely elements where even though I love the game to pieces, like there were definitely elements where I was like, this is feeling a little bit repetitive at times. But I think to what's this point, normally what I would then do when I got that far is like, all right, I'm just going to get back on the main story quest, do that for a couple of missions. That would then renew my excitement, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm back now. So I think it definitely does depend on the way in which you do things.
So that very well could be. The side quests to me got old real fast. Like in Act 1, I was kind of done with side quests. And I'm not talking about the tales. The tales were different. The side quests, like I quickly found out, were extremely formulaic. It was literally like almost every one of them was, you find somebody along the side of the road or in a camp somewhere, and they tell you, go find this person. And then you go find that person, and they, you do something, you go kill some guys or follow some footprints. And there is room for, expanding on that, but it costs a shitload of money because you have to write like a story for each one of those. Yeah. And then you have to, my example is always The Witcher 3, where a side quest that you could just run across randomly, could be this expansive like story about, how, there's this family got attacked by a werewolf, but actually it was just this guy who was jealous of the husband who dressed up like a werewolf, and killed everybody, like stuff like that. But that's why, I'm not criticizing the game for what it doesn't have. I'm hopeful that the next time around, like they get like this huge ass budget and they can really sink into that stuff, because it was so much fun what they did do, and the combat was amazing. So it's just fun to be in that world.
Combat was amazing.
I think you're right. I think you're right about the budget though, because it's interesting, because it's like, it's almost like this. This was like an untested waters, right? And it's just like, you look at like two games that are very close to each other. You can clearly see like Last of Us was given like, hey, here's a blank check. Use whatever you want. And Ghost of Tsushima, you always feel like because there's a few things that are like, obviously kind of potentially stylistic, but also kind of budget oriented. Like when it comes to like cutscenes, like fade to blacks between things and things like certain things like that. And I feel like they probably had like a significantly smaller budget, because obviously it's an untested thing. Now it's been so popular, I feel like if Sony were like, oh yeah, give us a, obviously it might not be Ghost of Tsushima 2 because of the Tsushima, but whatever it is, like Ghost of Tsushima 2, and they were like, now you can have as much money as you want. Like, yeah, I'm 100% with you. Like, I would love to sort of see what they could do, because they have so many great systems in place. But like, if they have like buckets of money behind them, they might be able to do something incredible. What I will say is, after playing a game like this, and I love these games, but it's gonna be kind of hard to go and play Assassin's Creed in the same way, because this has set the precedent for these kind of games. Like, oh my goodness.
It was
definitely.
We didn't talk about the ending, and I gotta say that the arc, I feel like the story arc from the beginning all the way to the end, in how like the tales and also the main quest, and how the end fight was with your uncle, and the way they set that up visually, like the fact that there was the question of honor versus dishonor, and what was right or wrong if in the samurai code versus like saving your people. And the fact that the cost of war was also his name and his family clan and all that. Like, there was so many things in that ending. And the fact
there were so many layers.
Yeah, many layers that it just completely obliterated me. I was like, this is amazing. Like this is how you tell a freaking story and like have these things come together. I was blown away by it.
It was way more interesting than the fight against Khan.
Yeah. Well, the Khan fight for me was like action,
Yeah.
Like, but
So the uncle, I'm gonna say, I kind of hated him the whole way. Like the whole way, I was like, this guy is getting on my nerves.
Kind of a prick.
Then, but then at the end, which is just a testament to their writing and their animation. But at the end, where he turns to you and he's like, this is my punishment, having to kill you, and he's crying.
Yeah.
I feel I don't hate him anymore. I've kind of almost forgiven him and come to this place where it's, I now feel for him. I feel for him as a family member again.
Did you guys kill him?
Just in that one moment. Yeah, what did everyone do? I did kill him.
I did not.
I did not.
I didn't either. Watts, you're a monster.
Whew!
So
Can't believe it.
After watching both of the endings, I think
you did get the
both of them. Yeah, I think that killing him feels like the quote unquote better ending, but the way that they're both written is really, really good. So my thing was, obviously knowing a lot about samurai and everything, was if I don't kill him, one, he wants me to. 2, if I don't kill him, he's gonna have to kill himself. He's gonna have to disembowel himself because he can't possibly go back to them and be like, oh yeah, I didn't do it, because he has to do it. He has to disembowel himself, kill himself. So in that moment, so if you don't know what happens, Jin's very upset about it. Both of them are very upset. And it ends with your uncle saying, thank you, son. And it just felt like that one moment showed him that, yes, I am the ghost, but I'm holding both the samurai and the ghost stuff together. And it was that last moment of him being kind of proud of you before passing on. And he's like, make sure to find me in the next life. So the ending was incredibly powerful. I hated it. I was on stream, I was like, I hate this. I hate that I'm killing him. I feel so bad. But he kind of gave you all the words of thank you so much. I see you as a son. Find me again. It was very sad.
And if you do that one, you get the white die. Whereas if you do the one that we did, we get the red die.
Yeah.
I like the red die.
I like the red die. Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't kill him, you say that you have no honor, and you can't kill a family member. And knowing that he'd have to stab himself, that is sad. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like both of those endings.
I got over it.
Both of the endings are very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, oh, you got the good ending, or oh, you got the bad one. It felt like it's just a personal choice. Like, it just comes down to how I was thinking about it for a solid 5 minutes of just like, okay, well, what's he gonna have to do? His uncle's obviously very strict with the honor thing, so he'd probably prefer to be killed. But is that what Jin would do? Because he's kind of set all those traditions aside. So it was.
I was set to kill him. I was like, he wants an honorable death, so I'm gonna do this. So I clicked it, and then it was like, are you sure? And I was like,
you're like, wait, no,
I'm not sure.
You want me to confirm this? Nope. I'm setting him free, or I'm not killing him. I'm walking away.
Dear.
Like
I do need to know something else as well.
Hold on. But the actual
Finish
like the cinematography side of it, like the way.
Oh my god.
That scene,
Dude,
that battle, the flowers
in the Ronin armor, right?
Yes,
because it's now you're a Ronin. Like just that attention to detail.
Your parents' graveyard, like where your parents were laid to rest,
which you had been to with what's her name.
You
saw that ring, and you're like, "Oh, I'm definitely gonna fight somebody in this ring at some point."
Yep.
Right? Like, because it was there. Like, yeah, that was awesome.
There are just so many layers that added up. Where I was like, "This is an amazing 5-course meal that was masterfully crafted for you to come to a completion." A lot of times, like the end of a game usually feels like, "Oh, they got to get this done," and let's make sure we just cross everything off so we get it done. This just felt so perfect, where it didn't feel like anything was unturned or
it felt like considered. It was earned. Like everything led up to that moment too. It wasn't out of nowhere. It was like everything. The con stuff caused this, but this is what the game is about. Yeah, it's not you killed con. The con fight is weird because it's split up between that boss fight style and then regular combat, which is was weird.
That was weird. Yeah,
it was a bit weird.
Yeah.
The con stuff felt a little anticlimactic, but thankfully the uncle fight really brought it home for me.
Playing on lethal.
The other thing that I thought was lethal like.
I was just gonna say, playing on lethal, that con fight was difficult.
Yeah.
I had to be like, all right, we got to do this. Yeah.
What was it? Was it the one-on-one part or the second part that's more like regular combat?
Duels on lethal basically where if you don't parry or dodge, you're gonna die.
You dead.
Yeah, you're basically dead in one hit.
Almost a one shot.
For the most part, if it's a red thing, it's definitely a one shot. If it's not a red thing, it's usually followed up by something that will kill you on there.
Yeah,
it's pretty brutal.
That sounds brutal. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, that is that's a bit much. That's a bit much. But I was saying the other thing that I thought was really cool, right? The one thing that we did mention before was like linked to the ghost dance. You know the time when it's the end of Act 2 when you're sieging the castle, and then Jin drops down from the balcony, like poisons 3 guys, and then as the doors open, he just slices the guy's head off, and his uncle is like.
And you turned around, you got blood all over your face. Like,
yeah, and you're like,
this is how I do. This is how I do it.
Is there a problem?
I've been doing this for like 15 hours. I don't know what you're up to.
Yeah. He's like, I just saved the castle for you. What are you talking about, man?
If the castle's yours, dude, pull on up. Go get comfy.
You should not have done this, but
there was actually a part in that mission that was like also really emotional. So it's when Taka is killed for being incredibly brave and like doing what he wants to do, standing up for people. And then Yuna comes in. She obviously sees her brother is dead, and Jin is saying, "Run, we got to get out of here." And she's like, "No, there's no way that I'm running." And you see both of them take up their weapons to just go fight everyone. That was really powerfully done, where I was like, yeah. And at that moment, I wanted to murder everybody.
Yeah.
Every single person was being murdered in the worst way.
Yeah.
But they made that even worse because off the back of Taka dying, your horse is killed.
Oh my God. I couldn't believe they killed.
I cried.
About the horse game.
Hell yeah.
The thing is, any other game, I'm like, oh, my horse is, like horses. It hasn't got a name. It's just a horse you ride, like Red Dead Redemption. Oh, my horse got run over by a train. Oh, I'll get another one, right? But this one, I named my horse. I've been with it the whole time. The fact that when you call your horse, you call it by name. I call my Nomu. So the whole time he's like, Nomu, come here. And I was like, and then when he died, it's like I've just had to deal with Taka, and now my horse is dead, and now I've got to ride some scraggly little like random.
Yeah, some scruffy ass horse barn. That's
this leads into my other question of when you're able to pick another horse. Which horse did you pick and what did you name it?
I don't remember. I picked the white one, but I don't remember the name.
I picked the gray one. I called it Kaze.
I picked the pre-order, the deluxe one. I don't.
With the little deluxe icon next to it.
I don't remember what I named it.
Said Supreme in red letters across the side.
Yeah.
I picked the thin brown horse. So, and I felt, honestly, so my happiness after I did that made me so incredibly happy. One of the happiest I've been in the game, because it was this horse who was just like the straggly horse. It doesn't seem even particularly good with being ridden and stuff, right? It's got like burn marks on his fur. He's really skinny. And there was this moment where I could pick that horse and give him a name and give him a saddle. And that felt really powerful, where it's like, hey, horse, thanks for being with me and getting me out of here. You now have a name. So I gave him the yellow saddle. I was wearing the yellow Ronin armor with the basket on my head. And I was very
The basket armor, or the basket is pretty good.
The Tengai. The Tengai is like,
that was the end game armor. Is the Tengai with your pants, the hot spring pants.
Nice.
The hot spring pants are great.
The thing though about the horse side of it is that like they said this is your horse, you're gonna be with it for the whole game, and I was like, okay, so I don't have to worry about this horse dying. Then they kill it. I was like, you assholes, this is unbelievable.
Let me tell you, my horse died many times before that.
But the way they killed it, the way like you were like you were getting away from your people. You had been captured. You're like being held by your people, and they shot arrows into your horse, and your horse was going as far as the horse could until it gave out and died. And like the way you said goodbye and thank you and all that, like this was just really powerful.
And the music broke me, because in a lot of these situations where your horse does die or an animal that you're with dies, it's usually pretty fast. But this was a long, drawn out thing where you're seeing the pain that your horse was in, getting you to safety.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible, amazing.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Exactly. I felt like the game just had so many story points like that where I was like, this is just hitting strings that you normally don't get in games.
Yeah.
It just didn't do that for me. I thought the story as a whole was pretty good, but it just didn't emotionally impact me like it did you guys. But, Last of Us was the same way. Like, I really dug Last of Us, and you guys didn't. And that's fine, Different things for different folks.
Yeah, my joke was that of all of the awful things that were happening, I was like, and this is still not as depressing as Last of Us 2.
Oh, that's true.
And yet, still not as bad as Last of Us 2.
Do you guys have like a favorite moment of the game or mission of the game where you were like, I'm really enjoying this. This is great. I love this.
There were so many. But
there's so many. The Mythic Tales are great.
I really do.
Like the big raids, like where you just have these huge battles. Like there's this one town where like it's kind of like, I think it's mid Act 2 where you have to like defend the town from like a Mongol invasion, and you just go ballistic on like you kill so many Mongols in that portion of the game. It was a really cool.
Is that when you get the
section.
the ghost stance?
I'm not sure. It wasn't one of the big castles. It was just like a town that you're trying to recruit their archers for your army so you can invade the castle at the end of Act 2. I can't remember the name of that.
I'm pretty sure that's when you get the ghost, because you go and you kill the general or the leader or whatever, like the leader, and it inspires Ghost Dance, and then you go back out and murder everybody in Ghost Dance, and that was good. That was my favorite too, actually, because of like being so surprised over the fact that you hadn't really seen much beheading, so it was like, I guess you just don't behead people. And then it happens, and it was like right in front of you. The head just, you're like, what is happening? And then it was like Ghost Dance. And then the screen turns red, and it's like actually frightening. I was like, this game is amazing.
And the cool thing is, well, like by that time in the game, like if you begin to do most of the activities, you would have had like a good chunk of your skills, a good chunk of your like mythic arts, a lot of things like that. And like the ghost arts were still grayed out on your tree, but like you think to yourself, like the things in the bottom were sort of, for the most part, more passive things. So you wouldn't have thought it was going to be anything like notable. But then when it's literally like, oh, you thought you had a lot of cool skills, now you have this, like that whole area.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing about that one as well was because it was the Yarikawa stronghold. Like I went there by accident earlier, and then if you go there accident earlier, there's too many people. Even the game will warn you. It's like, there are a lot of people here. You probably should like leave, and you try to go through it, and the archers like bam, 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 bam.
No, I'm pretty sure there's invisible archers that are just there to murder you because it's a story thing. So you can't kill everyone there because then you ruin the story.
Yeah, it's true. There's actually a funny Twitter clip. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's this dude that jumps off a tower out of the stronghold, and he gets shot by arrows like bam, 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 bam. He's like being juggled in the air, and it's like, yeah, you're dead. It's like, but then going back and be like, oh, now I'm a badass. Now I can defeat this. Like, that was cool.
I think my favorite was the Straw Hat Ronin duel mission, where you went to all the different areas and you saw the Straw Hat and you dueled them. And normally they set it up in this super cinematic area, like a field of flowers or under the waterfall. And I was doing a thing where I was always matching my hat to the hat that they were wearing and then taking pictures during it. I love those. So, because I love duels. I love the duels in this game. I'd love to see more duels. And the Straw Hats are particularly strong in duels.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And they were just always in a beautiful area.
Yeah, that was well
version
done.
Of like a boss fight for this game is genius. Like those duels, I think are some of the most fun I've had, like in some kind of like boss fight scenario that I can remember. It's so inventive, but it works so well for this specific setting in this specific game. Like it's so good. And like the way you're kind of limited, you can't use all of like the ghost stuff that you use in normal combat. It's just a one-on-one sword versus sword kind of thing. You can still use different stances, but you can't use like your smoke bomb or anything like that. It's just so good.
Because it's rooted in honor. The duel is like an honor type of thing. And
anytime
I ran across one of those rings, I definitely did it. It was so fun.
Yeah.
It's actually quite cool because when you did that in the actual like mission structure, like when you wanted to get that special Ronin armor and you had to go and fight all the guys and thing, like when you go to all the iconic locations, like you do one of them in like the red flowers, and like I think my favorite one was like you go down from the cloud top shrine and there's like this ring amidst all the oceans around you, and you're just like all those settings are so cool.
Yeah,
they were. I made sure I had to take pictures during all of those duels. I was like, yep, match the hat, take a picture. Beautiful. It was great. I loved it. And I also wanted to say that their choice of the ghost armor, of what it actually looks like, first of all, saying made from a good friend, Taka, hurt my feelings. Thank you, video game.
Yeah.
But their choice of making it ghost, but then the mask is modeled after the Sakai mask was such a beautiful touch, because if you've done the Yuriko quest line, you obviously have this kind of pride in being Clan Sakai, and then it's like, oh, so I can wear this mask that's a ghost mask and a part of my family. So it was their choice for that. There's just those little things that really make me so happy with this game.
For some reason, that just reminded me about the haikus and having to write the last words.
Haikus are the best.
You had to write the last words of Clan Sakai or House Sakai.
Yes.
And before that fight, like that That was such an incredible touch.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
I really like this game. I can't wait to see what Sucker Punch does next. I don't know if it'll be another like a sequel to this game or like another brand new property. I think they've definitely earned their credentials though with this game, right? Yeah. It's like this is a big boy game. This is a monster game, and it's selling like that too. So they're being rewarded for some really great stuff, and that's always good to see. So I can't wait to see what they do on like the PlayStation 5.
Right. Someone had mentioned this. I can't remember who, but like basically saying like you don't need Rockstar Games or CD Red Project anymore to do a legit open world game that's amazing. And your criticisms are right, Briar, about how like the mission structures that you just stumble upon were formulaic, that are like the general ones. You're absolutely right in that. So a bigger budget could help flesh that out. But basically, like they just move themselves right up into that position of like,
oh yeah,
they could kill another open world game, and people would be like, yes.
The physical copies sold out in Japan. You couldn't find a physical copy of this game.
Wow, amazing!
I'm lucky I got one.
Crazy.
I'm pretty impressed by this whole game.
I'd love to go to they at the end they totally set themselves up for a DLC, because obviously there's still Mongolians in your country. You got to get rid of them. Plus now you're being hunted by the Shogun, so
yeah. Oh yeah,
that's a whole storyline.
I don't know if it'll be a DLC or a next game, but definitely that is an interesting place for it to go next, right?
Yeah.
And like, is he going to stay samurai, or is this like going to be like, like the game's interpretation of the invention of ninjas, or like what's going to happen? Like there's so many places they can go with this character in this game.
To recruit the people that are hunting him to make their own new clan and start like a whole new thing, because that's happened. Move the capital, change the leaders. There's a lot that they could do.
Yeah. Go to mainland China, or not China, like mainland Japan, like to the Big Island.
We could go to Kyoto and see how Tomoe is doing with that robbing people.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool that he had like an army that had been suddenly following the ghost. They're like, which was the problem. You can't have a leader structure if someone is like so powerful in ideology that they're creating an army around this idea. But that was just like little things like that. I thought was amazing, but like the ghost becoming so bigger than life.
Yeah. Well, it threatened the whole structure of their, society, their like elite society, which frankly needed threatening.
Yeah.
That's cool. This has been a longer side quest than usual. We better wrap it up.
It has.
Yeah.
Spoiler talk complete. Yeah.
I'm really unhappy that it's over.
Yeah.
Real quick, did anybody clear out all the bases?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does anything happen after that? Because it's the only thing I haven't done yet.
No, it's just part towards the achievements. If you get to platinum,
okay. There's no story for like clearing out all the bases.
No.
Okay.
Right. You might unlock like a mask or how. Normally, if you complete one of those things, you unlock like a cosmetic or something like that. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but no, that was.
All right, I'm not going to do it then.
All right. Well, that is SideQuest episode number 58. Spoiler talk complete as well.
Main game complete.
Yeah, main game complete. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. Shout out to our Patreon members, and shout out to our Twitch subs, and shout out to everyone watching or listening, no matter where you're at. If you want to find more of me, you can talk to me at Teft on twitter.com/Teft, and catch my streams twitch.tv/TeftyTeft. I will be taking some time off this month, some well-needed R&R from my schedule, which I'm thinking is going to start next week for me. But yeah. Who's next?
I am Miss5000 Watts. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. We're going to be doing some Iron Banner, and then I think we're going to jump into the Neo 2 DLC.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that just came out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Arix. You can find me over on Twitter and YouTube at either Arix or Arix Gaming. And I don't know what we're doing this week. There's Monster Hunter this week. Frostfang Barrier drops, so I'll be talking about that next week.
Nice.
I'm Briar Rabbit. You can find me looking at the Analog website, longingly and disapprovingly looking at my Game Boy Color because it's just not good enough anymore.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you. Actually, you guys, you guys will be on the show next week. I'll be off next week.
Yes.
So,
we'll be.
Yeah. And DCP Live episode 200 this week.
Episode 200. What's going to happen? Ooh, who knows?
Definitely lighting something on fire.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you later.